Story 1. I got married at 22 and was married for 25 years. I raised 2 boys to adulthood. I would like to live this next chapter for and by myself. Story 2. A close friend says they are not wasting their time looking for someone to marry just because they were taught that marriage is one of the most important things in life. It makes me wonder how many people have gotten married simply because they were told it is important, not because they were in love. Story 3. I just don't have any desire to. Nothing about it appeals to me. I maybe did as a child, but only because you're supposed to. Story 4. I like to go out and date women, but children are not for me. It is also tough meeting a woman who does not want children either. Story 5. My view is skewed because I have seen many unhealthy marriages where people cheat and all that mess. It made me realize that I have no interest in a ceremony or a piece of paper to solidify the commitment between me and my partner. I think commitment is commitment, and it should just be that. A ring, a wedding, or a piece of paper. I just want someone loyal or honest about whether they want to experience someone else. Story 6. I was in an abusive relationship 15 years ago, and it was very hard to get out of it. Once I was out, I knew I would never go back again. Story 7. I am a social introvert with a very low social battery. I cannot handle spending much time with anyone. I have been in long-term relationships and found them to be stressful, draining, and exhausting in every way. Story 8. Because I do not want a contract to validate what should be a choice, daily, free, and conscious. Because I have seen too many people confuse routine with love, obligation with intimacy. And maybe because I want someone who stays not because they signed something, but because every day they still want to. Story 9. I could never give up the peace I have now living on my own. No nagging, complaining, or unrealistic demands. Yes, I am good, thank you. Story 10. Because commitment does not require marriage. Some people just prefer freedom, focus, or a different path. Story 11. I am almost 40 and have never been married. I never want to be because I really enjoy being alone. I am comfortable with myself and financially stable. The only time I might consider marriage is for a tax break. In college, I had 2 friends who got married just to save money on tuition. I always thought that was smart. Story 12. I have experienced that once before when I was very young. I do not plan to marry again, as that experience was abusive and traumatic. The level of control the other person had over me after we got married and signed the marriage certificate was overwhelming, and I am not willing to go through that again. Story 13. What do I get out of it? More complications, exponentially more risks, liabilities, and involvement of other people. Or I can just date and have a relationship if I want. If we stay together for the long term, cool. If we change over time or want to do something else, equally cool. I am not having children. Story 14. I do not want to be expected to cook, wash someone's dirty socks, clean the entire house, iron, give birth to children, and then add all the previous tasks to the challenges of pregnancy and childbirth. These include potential consequences such as losing your teeth, sleepless nights, expenses, doctor visits, risks of serious illnesses, educating, and being patient in all situations. Story 15. I want to, and it is not for my lack of trying. In holding myself accountable, I know I was too career-focused, needed time to really think about what I want and also have standards. But my God, dating does suck now. Story 16. Everything I see from people who are stuck in marriage is how miserable they are and how much they hate their spouse, or how they tolerate their partner because they got married and are supposed to keep working at the marriage. The whole process of dating to marriage to having children sounds awful. I am happy to date, and as long as we enjoy each other's company, I will keep dating. There is no reason to change that or add pressure. Story 17. Because I am much happier without a needy man. When I got up to fix something for myself, like a glass of tea, the older man wanted a glass of tea as well. Everything I did, I had to do twice. Take care of yourself. Root hog or die. Story 18. After many successive rejections and attempts to find a partner without being chosen or wanted by anyone, I think I finally give up. Marriage was the absolute goal for me, and now I don't even want it anymore. Maybe it is because I am worried about getting rejected again or feeling drained. But I guess I have had enough. If no one wants me, then there is no need to keep trying. Some of us are not meant to be partners, even if we are capable. Story 19. Already married. I would not do it again if we divorced or whatever. As a man, there is no benefit outside of children, who are the biggest blessing. My 7-year-old is my whole world. I would not trade her for immortality or $100 billion. Story 20. My fiancé just broke it off. We were together for 9 years. 9 years of memories, experiences, good times, bad times, travels, funerals, dogs acquired, dogs died. All ended one day, and the relationship was over right there. I'm exhausted and in no hurry to start again. I wasn't the biggest fan of the thought of marriage, but this girl was the one until she wasn't. I don't think I'll get to this point again, and I am okay with that. Story 21. I do not see the point, really. My parents usually resort to arguments like, it is what everybody does, and it has always been this way, which I find flawed. Story 22. The world never really portrayed marriage as something people enjoy. I took that to heart. At this point in my life, that opinion has not changed. Story 23. I do not want to put anyone in a position where they can successfully sue me just because I no longer please them. That does not seem like a smart thing to do. Story 24. My partner has bad credit, and I do not want to be tied to that. I just wear a ring and we say we are married. Story 25. I am not the kind of person who would be happy married or make another person happy. I tried it once and would not recommend it. Story 26. Married. Separated for 5 years. No desire to get married again. Marriage is just a piece of paper. If you want to be together, then just stay together. There is no need to get married. Story 27. Cost. An exuberant and expensive celebration to sign a document. If you get divorced, it will probably cost just as much. Love does not require money or a signature. Story 28. Because then I would be pressured to have sex, and I am asexual. I am also aromantic, so I do not think I would get much out of it. Story 29. I am not the ideal man for anyone, and nobody will like me. Besides, I would rather provide for myself and manage my own money. I am a teenage boy, so I am not of legal age to marry. Story 30. I met a man in a hostel who was telling me how his girlfriend, with whom he had lived for over 10 years, was running out of options to extend her visa to stay in the United States. I asked why they did not just get married, and he told me he was not the marrying type. I could not believe this man would not sign a piece of paper so she could stay, but I guess some people are really caught up with labels. Story 31. I don't think most people have the longevity required for a pure marriage. People think pure and have ideas X, Y, Z. Pure is meeting your spouse's needs and keeping your vows. I am happy for the people who found it, but I think a lot of people are either faking, working hard to hold it together, or were meant to be. 2/3 of those are good options for me, but I think most women only see one good option and are banking on faking it the last minute if Prince Charming doesn't come through. Story 32. If I wanted a pet, I would get a cat. Men require more effort, are more expensive, and provide less emotional reciprocity than a cat. They are also more dangerous and more likely to eat the neighbor's fish than a cat is. Honestly, if I had to choose between a man and a cat, I would choose the cat every time. Story 33. Who would want to marry a man who is polite, motivated, highly educated, skilled, and treats women with great respect? I had 3 chances and I fumbled them. I don't think I have any more. Story 34. Again, you mean? There are too many reasons to list. I will let you know when the book comes out. No, thank you. My life is so peaceful right now, and I am not about to screw that up. Story 35. While we understand the legal protections granted, my partner and I never felt our relationship was any of Virginia's business. Story 36. Everyone who married in my family, except my grandparents, is divorced. That is a ratio of 8 divorces to 1 marriage. I am not taking those chances. Story 37. Happily married for 25 years. Finally met her in my late 20s after reconciling with the question, do I settle for less or go alone with occasional casual dating? Our children are 18 and 15. We deliberately waited until we were ready, so they have been raised exceptionally well. We are already planning and preparing for the next stage of our adventure. I generally have contempt for people and couples who fail due to lack of preparation, lack of diligence, or poor decisions. Heal your baggage, be your best self, set high standards for yourself and your partner, and do not tolerate accidents. Story 38. I married at 20, and my husband passed away 15 years ago. I am enjoying my peace. Nobody could make my life any happier or add anything to it. Story 39. Well, I am 68 years old, somewhat financially secure, divorced, and have 3 amazing children and 2 gorgeous granddaughters. My efforts at finding companionship since my divorce have only ended in hurt. Oh wait, were you directing your question to young people? Just kidding around. Story 40. Cannot be bothered. In my country, we have almost all the same rights as a married couple, and besides, it is just an expensive hassle. Secondary reasons include the history of it. I am not keen on being considered property. Story 41. There is no point. We have been together for 10 years, are happy, and weddings are strange to both of us. Story 42. 42 years old, been engaged twice, never married. It has never been a big deal for me. Glad both engagements did not work out. Story 43. Why bother with the paperwork, expenses, and headaches just to go through even more paperwork, expenses, and headaches for a divorce? If you want to be with someone and they want to be with you, then that is that. There is no need to have a piece of paper say you are married. Just get a couple of rings and say you are married. Story 44. I do. I am just unlovable. And there is so much wrong with me that no one righteous would ever want me. Only manipulative women seem to want to talk to me, and I no longer trust my own judgment. Story 45. I was with them, then they wanted children, so I left. This was 20 years ago. I will not get married ever again. I do not recommend it. Story 46. I am a very mistrusting person, and I am quite selfish. I like doing my own thing and not having to worry about more people than I already do. Story 47. We have been together for almost 8 years now, and we both believe that the marriage institution is broken and that weddings are glorified, overhyped, and way too expensive parties. We are happy, we plan to have children, and keep living as is. The realization that adding the word bride to an item or service quadruples the price, such as dress, makeup, and hairdressing, should make every logical person cringe, in my opinion. Story 48. I married the woman of my dreams after college. We were going to start a family, but cancer got in the way, and she passed away 2 years into our marriage. I do not plan on doing that again. It is extremely hard to lose someone you are close to. Story 49. I enjoy the peace within solitude. Everything is where I put it. My money is not spending itself. Most women in my area do not interest me. I am happy alone. I always have been. Story 50. Well, besides the obvious opportunity to finally combine your questionable taste in decor with someone else's equally questionable taste, there are a few perks. By perks, I mean hilarious opportunities for personal growth and exasperation. Financial gains or losses depending on your spouse's shopping habits. Let's be real, the government just loves married people. They practically throw tax breaks at you. It's like they're saying, congratulations on locking down a permanent roommate. Here, have some extra cash for whatever it is you do with it. Probably sensible things, like paying bills or buying more questionable decor. Plus, you get to pool your resources. 2 incomes mean double the potential for arguments about how to spend it. But hey, at least you'll be arguing from a slightly more comfortable financial position, right? And if one of you is a secret millionaire, then you've really hit the jackpot. Just don't tell them I said that. Built-in best friend who also judges your choices. Imagine having someone legally obligated to listen to your rambling stories, tolerate your bad habits, and occasionally pretend to find your jokes funny. It's like a sleepover that never ends. Except now there's a mortgage involved. You'll always have a +1 for weddings, even if you secretly want to go alone, and someone to blame when you accidentally eat all the ice cream. It's a beautiful, symbiotic relationship where you both push each other to be better, or at least better at passive aggression. Health benefits because nagging is caring. Apparently, married people live longer. Maybe it's because you have someone constantly reminding you to eat your vegetables, go to the doctor, and stop leaving your socks on the floor. It's like having a live-in personal trainer, nutritionist, and life coach all rolled into one slightly judgmental package. And let's be honest, who else is going to lovingly tell you that you've gained a few pounds if not your legally bound partner? It's for your health, obviously. Social credibility, the ultimate accessory. Oh, the happily married glow. Suddenly, you're not just a person, you're part of a unit. People invite you to more dinner parties, which you'll probably regret, and you get to practice your synchronized nodding when someone asks, "So, how long have you two been together?" It's like having a permanent adulting badge. And let's not forget the sheer joy of showing off your rings. It's the ultimate I'm taken back off accessory, even if you sometimes secretly wish you hadn't. So there you have it. Marriage. It's a wild ride, full of laughter, love, and the occasional urge to lock yourself in the bathroom with a really good book. But hey, at least you'll never be bored. I am so ready to meet my soulmate. All right, ladies, if you're still reading this, it means you've got a fantastic sense of humor and possibly a soft spot for witty banter. So, don't be shy. Feel free to drop me a line. We can argue endlessly about the perfect shade of grayish for the living room, debate the merits of throw pillows. Are they ever truly enough? And most importantly, decorate our dream home until it's a glorious, slightly chaotic reflection of our combined questionable tastes. Because what's more romantic than a good-natured design disagreement? Story 51. Because I did that, it was the worst thing ever. My ex kept surprising me with more weddings on the honeymoon on a cruise. Not sure why. I think he wanted praise or to appear good. It was too much money, and I had doubts that I should have listened to. In hindsight, all the warning signs were there to help me, but I dismissed them and did it anyway, thinking I might be overreacting or stupid. Do not marry a guy if you have doubts. Someone is watching out for you. He was an abuser and cheater and dragged out the divorce too, which cost 3 to 4 times more than the wedding. The worst decision of my life impacted my sanity, my health, my privacy, my freedom, my body, my safety, my kids' safety, my future, my housing, my finances, and my trust in people. I would go back to the beginning and cancel that. No to marriage for women. I will marry again, except I will do a very thorough background check, including interviewing people he knew or knows. Story 52. Because I am not sure if I ever want to marry. Being really back and forth on it, along with the question of having children, is not fair to put my partner through. It is easier to say I do not want either of them, and if I have a change of heart later, trust that I can have that conversation when or if the time comes. Story 53. I was married already. I met my husband at 19, and he was the first and only man in my life until we divorced a few years ago. I am enjoying living my own life, discovering who I am as a single woman, and loving being able to make my life about me. I have zero interest in legally tying myself to anybody ever again. Ever. Story 54. I used to want to be married, but I changed my mind a month or two ago. We would actually pay more taxes if we were married, and I need financial aid for school. I already live with him, so marriage wouldn't change much, and it is also more trouble to break up. Neither of us wants children either. If there is a real financial incentive to get married in the future, if we are still together 5 or more years down the line, maybe. But for now, I do not really want to. Also, I do not like the patriarchal implications of marriage. It never quite sat well with me. I want to be known as my own person, not as Mrs. Partner's last name. Story 55. Because I do not think people take it seriously enough. I do not want occasional loyalty, fleeting feelings, half love, or the attitude of you are not perfect, so I am out. I want true, enduring love, and I do not think that exists anymore. Story 56. Weddings seem like a huge hassle. People say it is like an investment because of the gifts, but I would much rather take that money and go on a cool trip or save for a house. Cost aside, it just seems like an annoying day with too many pictures and people always staring at you. Story 57. because I do not want to lose my freedom. It is very hard to find a partner who does not take my freedom away from my life. Story 58. I am pretty sure I would mess it all up. I also cannot imagine all the sleepless nights as a parent. I would probably crack. Story 59. I have no problem with a civil marriage, but I will never support the Catholic Church. In my mind, they are a cult of child molesters and are founded on human sacrifice. I despise everything about it. Do not get me wrong. I have no problem with Christian people as long as they are peaceful. The church is simply not good. Story 60. I have a fear of being in a relationship where I am taken advantage of. Maybe I just do not want to be in a lifeless marriage like the one my parents have. Story 61. Marriage is just a title. Marriage can be a trap. People are very shady in this generation, and it seems we have normalized cheating and lying. Getting married will not stop your spouse from being unfaithful. Divorce is a difficult process to go through. It is better to just date because relationships these days can be challenging. Story 62. I am not excited about the legal aspects, especially after seeing my brother get divorced because his former spouse was unfaithful. I would only consider marriage if it were with a female friend I have known for many years and with whom I have become a couple. Story 63. I've seen one brother go through divorce and the other have a completely toxic relationship caused by the mother of his children, who would abuse him and try to turn his daughters against him. That is not something I want to risk for my life. Story 64. I don't lack the willingness to compromise. I am ready to live, cooperate, and invest together. However, I do not see anything of value in a ring. It can be any trinket, regardless of its economic value or a certificate verifying it. Story 65. Because boys have germs. I never cared for the idea, and I do not believe in having to ask the government's permission before breaking up with someone. Story 66. For men, the consequences can be severe and life-changing. Men do not get married. You may regret it more than you can imagine. Story 67. I do not like the traditions of marriage, such as women being treated as property given away from their father to a new owner, the white dress symbolizing virginity, and losing your name and identity. It is costly, breakups are messy, and being in a loving, committed partnership is enough for me. Story 68. I married only to combine assets with someone I had already shared most of my adult life with. It makes paying taxes easier, but other than that, there is no real reason. My parents did not get married for the first 9 years of my life, and it would have been better for them not to have. Story 69. I had to pay my ex $20,000 in lieu of alimony after she had an affair with her boss. I will never screw myself financially again. Alimony and no-fault divorce are a bad combination if you make much more money than your partner. Story 70. I was going to do it until I realized how much his parents controlled his life. I wasn't going to touch that with a 10,000-foot pole. Then there's my mother, who holds a torch for him, although he hurt me emotionally and mentally in every way. I realized quickly that relationships and dating are not worth it if I have to deal with that kind of nonsense. More often than not, you do, and it's quadrupled when you grow a spine and a brain after being away from family who deny your actual existence beyond what they think you should be, especially when you enter a relationship with a same-sex partner. No, I refuse to subject some poor soul to my family, and I won't be subjected to theirs. Story 71. What is the point? Find someone you love and stay with them forever. Why get the government involved and waste a lot of money on a wedding? Story 72. I have never been with anyone since birth because I do not see the need to. It saves you from stress and headaches. School and work are already too bothersome and exhausting. We will all die alone anyway, so there is no point in trying to be with someone in the first place. Story 73. Will you stop asking me this? I am happy on my own, but if the right woman comes along, that might change. You just want an excuse to buy a new hat. Edit. Sorry, I thought you were my aunt. Auto reply. Story 74. About 85% of the marriages I have witnessed end in divorce, and I would say over 70% end very negatively for the man. Seeing this happen repeatedly has warped my view of marriage and made me quite callous toward it. At this point, I expect that sooner or later I will be alone. Story 75. I am a widow. I have been there and done that. To get married again, it would have to be significantly better than the first time. He became ill within 3 years of our wedding and remained sick for the remainder of our marriage. I did the right thing because I loved him. It was a true test of commitment. I am not sure how I could do that again. Story 76. Been there. At this stage of my life, I find it too exhausting. I don't think I have the patience or energy for marriage or even to live with a significant other. I only want to be responsible for myself now. Story 77. There once was an old man of Lyme who married 3 wives at a time. When asked, "Why a third?" he replied, "One's absurd, and bigamy, sir, is a crime." Story 78. I could never put a woman who isn't my mother or sister before myself. And I also do not like kids. Why would I want to wake up at 3 a.m. to clean messes? Imagine waking up at 3 a.m. to clean messes and the person turns out to be worse than a terrible dictator. That is a massive gamble. I would rather fall dead while going for a coffee in the morning than have a heart attack because of the person. Story 79. I am selfish. Any relationship comes with the added challenge of compromise and cooperation that I do not want to deal with. If I want to paint my walls green, I can do that without discussing it with anyone or fearing a fallout. Story 80. I did not want to get married because I did not see the need. Divorce is incredibly common, and saying something in front of a judge does not make a long-term commitment any stronger. Then the COVID-19 pandemic was winding down, and shops started opening again. We wanted to throw a great party, so we decided to have one. It was a great party. Story 81. I have been married twice, for 1.5 years and 22 years. The idea of not only finding and dating a new man but also blending him into my life where he will be all up in my space is exhausting and nauseating. If it happens naturally and easily, fine. But doing work to get there? No, I am good. Story 82. I only married once and we stayed married for 10 years. We remained friends. We divorced in 1975. I never wanted to remarry. I am not the marrying type. I am 87 years old. I now have severe back and neck pain. I do not want responsibilities. Story 83. It was just never my dream. I do not need someone around me all the time. I do not want children either. Keeping a partner around requires a lot of time and effort. For some, it is worth it. For me, it is not. Story 84. Because either you are intelligent or you are married. This is especially true for women. Marriage is a very unfavorable arrangement for women. Story 85. Married and divorced twice. For 23 years and 3 years. I have a defective partner picker and have lived alone for so long that I am more comfortable without a full-time roommate. Story 86. Marriage is a prison for love. You find it and experience it, then you lock it in a cage forever. For what? I believe all emotions are meant to be temporary and fleeting. Story 87. I am better by myself. It would be hard to find someone compatible, so I will not look for marriage. Some people are better with the right partner. Story 88. I am already married, and one husband is exhausting enough. Plus, there is the whole monogamy promise in our wedding vows. It is complicated. Story 89. I am too old to start a family, and I do not intend to leave any assets, so there is not really a point in getting married. Story 90. I have already been married before and it ended up a disaster. So yes, I do not really want to go through that again. I am not saying the second time around will not be better, but I will not risk it. Story 91. My family has seen 9 divorces, 1 amicable, and 1 where the man was not completely financially ruined by the courts. It was not the amicable one. Why would I want anything to do with any of that? Story 92. My husband would be justifiably upset if I said I wanted to marry another person. It is a hard no for both of us, and bigamy is illegal. Story 93. You can have a stronger relationship and bond with a partner than most marriages nowadays. Why be financially tied to one another? Story 94. I have been with my girlfriend for 15 years. I do not really believe in the idea of marriage. I am not religious, and we do not have children or property. I think the whole big wedding event is narcissistic. Story 95. Honestly, it's the kids. I don't want kids. If I can find a guy who also doesn't want kids and just wants to live life traveling and being parents to pets instead, I wouldn't mind getting married. Story 96. There is no benefit to me. I do not like answering to anyone but myself. When my clothes need to be washed, food needs to be cooked, and the house needs to be cleaned, I do not have to wait for or depend on a spouse to do any of that, then turn around and expect to be given money for doing it. There is also the very real possibility that you can do almost everything right, only for someone to suddenly not want to be married anymore and want to take half of your belongings with them. I have seen this a lot when I was in the Navy. They are always asking for things with their hand out. Even though I have plenty of money, I am not a provider and never set myself up to be like that. I like peace and solitude and do not need a woman nagging me about anything. Story 97. There are many reasons, but a big one for me is not wanting to add extra pressure to the relationship. Feels like it could spoil it. Also, why involve the government? It does not show commitment. It just makes it harder to leave if something changes. If anything, not getting married means more, because every day the relationship is an active choice without the barrier of the divorce process. Story 98. I have been married twice. My first wife received everything in the divorce. My second wife died during childbirth, so I am not going to go through any of that again. Story 99. Because I just don't see the point. You can say I have commitment issues, but I really don't. I just don't see what the point of marriage is. Sure, it's cute and proclaims love, but there is a reason why divorce rates are so high. It isn't for everyone, especially me. I don't like to be tied down for eternity. I don't like to be tied down at all. I feel that marriage will restrict me so much I will suffocate. Not because I want to cheat, not because I'm disloyal, but because I'm very independent and I don't like it when someone tells me what to do and how to do things. I don't want someone else's last name on my achievements. I don't want to share my things, my time, or my money with them. I want it all to be for me. Maybe that's selfish, but I don't see the point because marriage only ties you to someone for life, legally and spiritually. I just don't like that. Story 100. Because I am not allowed to have a second wife. My wife, on the other hand, only has a husband and not a wife. I keep telling her that she needs one. I have one and I highly recommend it. Story 101. Marriage is overrated. From a religious institution, it became a social arrangement without any real substance. Currently, it is even worse, as it has become a consumer good. Story 102. It's not for me. Religiously, it is not needed in the eyes of the powers that be, and I do not need a piece of paper that says who I technically belong to or love. I would do a hand fasting or similar ceremony, but not a marriage as defined by government or mainstream religions. Story 103. Why would I want to share my part of success with someone who was never really there? Sounds selfish, but that's it. I would rather live alone, have one or two friends, and hustle. I like to stay quiet and low-key. I've been around money, fame, and riches, but they never gave me the peace of mind I was looking for. Later, I thought maybe I'd have someone to talk to. But again, no. My grandfather used to say, value is only appreciated by the one who creates it. And that sticks with me a lot. I am not really ready to get married and offer a pre-built legacy to someone who might have barely done anything in life. In my experience, these people turn out to be ungrateful, and that creeps me out. May God guide us all. Story 104. My partner and I have discussed how we do not want to marry, but I would still like the ring to indicate to others that I am taken. Story 105. I do not see a reason to complicate my life, have to work twice as hard, and still risk failure. I have dreams and ambitions and do not want to have to consider what some random person thinks. Story 106. Because it is basically betting half of your possessions that you will love someone forever. Also, half of marriages end in divorce. If you were going skydiving and the pilot said that half of the parachutes do not work, would you still jump? Story 107. I almost eloped after 5 years. It has been over 5 years since we split. I still do not trust anyone enough to let them in. I have worked too hard to jeopardize what I have built since then. Story 108. Parents never approved of any girl I dated. They always found something wrong with them, which shattered my hopes and discouraged me. Eventually, I gave up and just dated casually for a few months at a time. It affected me psychologically. Story 109. I am not religious. Marriage meant nothing to me. My wife wanted to get married, so we had a courthouse wedding. However, I would have preferred never to get married. Story 110. Because that would give me 2 wives and, even worse, 2 mothers-in-law. I think having 2 wives would be very selfish. Story 111. I see no value or reason for it. When I ask people, they mostly say it's about taxes and medical emergencies. Otherwise, they just have a romantic idea of what a spouse means, which I don't subscribe to. In my mind, marriage is just an idea that has morphed from its original form of trading property. Many customs have been carried down, but with a new romantic spin. People spend an absolutely insane amount of money on weddings, in my opinion, for just one day that could otherwise go toward retirement, a down payment, savings, etc. Even the whole diamond ring tradition was a marketing ploy, and people take it very seriously and romantically when it is none of those things in my eyes. I don't want someone to be with me because they are legally bound. The idea of committing forever is a bit naive and unrealistic. So much can change in a lifetime, and I personally think the most loving thing is to love the other person and also support their growth, change, and what is right for them, even if it leads them away from you. There is no way to predict that, so it doesn't make sense to me to put expensive paperwork in the way of that choice if it should happen. I also see a lot of married people who are very miserable and just stay because they are supposed to. They seem bound by this concept that is just made up, and they spend their whole lives miserable because of a vow they made when they were 26. It's sad to me, and I wish people had more flexibility and freedom within their relationships. I think long-term bonding is really beautiful, but marriage has never made sense to me. I am currently in my 5th year single by choice and am unlikely to choose to date again because it has been so peaceful. So, I don't necessarily represent the average outlook on this topic. I am in my 30s now and have felt this way since I was a kid. I never dreamed of a wedding or anything like that. It seems like a lot of stress for nothing. Story 112. Because of family pressure, society, and caste issues, you have to get married. Otherwise, many people in India remain single. Story 113. I am married. So far, so good. But I have been married 2 other times, and to be honest, the marriage aspect never added anything. I am no longer religious or trying to be, so I do not particularly care if my relationship is considered sinful. At least if I am not married, I can leave more easily if I decide the relationship is over. I think I have also complicated my country's immigration system enough for one lifetime. If I got divorced again, I would probably still want some kind of relationship, but I would not care about marriage. My country tends to view long-standing de facto relationships like marriage, so there might still be property matters to sort out. Story 114. I have been married. I remember the day after and realizing we were still just 2 people trying to make it. It did not change anything except the breakup process. I am not in a rush to be back there. That is between me and my therapist. Story 115. I have no reason to. I have no children, nor do I want children. If I get married, they can take my money if it does not work out. Story 116. Because marriage is outdated and conservatives are upset that adults have discovered no-fault divorce. There is nothing salvageable about the Republican mindset. I seriously and absolutely dislike it. They stand against individualism and free will and choice while claiming it is their reason for existence. The doublethink and doublespeak have reached a level of hypocrisy that anyone can see through, yet people still accept it. We are the party of rugged individualism and personal choices, just not like that. We are against women choosing to work, having abortions, or accessing family planning services and free obstetrics and gynecology visits, even though we fund the use of erectile dysfunction medication extensively. We are against people deciding to end their marriages and get divorced. We are against gay people having relationships or a sex life, even though we believe they choose to be this way, and we are supposedly the party of choice. Why do I not want to marry, you ask? Because it is my choice not to marry, and because the Republican Party is making it harder for my partner and me to make the most sacred choice a couple can make. whether to stay together or not, whether to have children or not, and whether we can survive in this economy as individuals or not. Story 117. I like doing what I want, but not sleeping around. I like to sleep in. I like to go out. I like to travel. I don't like running my plans by anyone or making sure I have permission from someone else. I don't even like sleeping in the same room as someone. I would rather have my own bed and space to relax. A partner wouldn't understand, or at this point hasn't understood. Story 118. Specifically, the wedding party is something I am not doing because the pressure of it being perfect and me being the center of attention all day makes me want to pull my eyes out. It is not going to happen. People say, "It's your day. It will be perfect if you are happy." But it is the parents, parents-in-law, and literally everyone having their own obnoxious opinions. I just cannot bother with the whole thing. I am engaged at the moment, but not even in a rush to sign papers or anything because it does not really change anything for us. We live together, share finances, and have pets. It is just a legal signing, so no rush. Unless I get some benefit if we sign it, I will get it done tomorrow. Story 119. Low interest in getting married because one of my parents died at a young age, and watching the agony my father went through scarred me for life. I am not sure I want to risk that kind of pain. Story 120. Because all it offers is stress. I have never seen people who are living happily around me after marriage. So, story 121. I am 20 years old and I know I want children someday. Also, if someone parents them with me, that means if we break up, they get 50% custody of my children. My father managed to abuse me in a short time. I spent one summer with him and developed 2 eating disorders that took years to recover from. He made me take on adult responsibilities and be a live-in nurse before the divorce. At least he did not sexually abuse me. Could have been much worse. Nobody plans to marry a child abuser, but people marry child abusers all the time. Story 122. My mom, dad, and brother's first marriages all ended in divorces. My brother just had his 3rd divorce, and my mom was the 4th marriage for my dad. So, marriage is not something I am eager to jump into. I am focusing on my career. Story 123. My dating pool consists of single mothers and fathers with children, and I do not want more children. Also, have you met people? They are awful. Story 124. Now you can clearly see why the Catholic Church had codified celibacy, to get around marital property laws and retain its wealth. If you want to keep it, do not marry. Story 125. The arrogance and pride of believing you are better than the statistics is probably a big reason why I have cooled on the idea. I am not that great to keep someone with me, let alone stay for about 30 years. Story 126. I love women a lot and think highly of them. I just want to love them from a distance, though. There is too much nagging and too many expectations. Also, too much government involvement occurs when there is a wife and the relationship does not work out. I do not agree with making contracts to be with someone. A marriage contract is essentially a deal to be together, and if it does not work out, the person earning more money often faces consequences. I watched my mom and many other mothers not treat their husbands very well, and I have to admit that it discouraged me from ever wanting to be married or committed. Story 127. We cannot afford it, and if we had the money, we would rather spend it on a holiday or improving our quality of life. Story 128. My ex-girlfriend cheated on me with a family member and became pregnant with his daughter. Knowing that I wanted to have a daughter as my firstborn, I suspected she was cheating but had no evidence. It explains why her sex drive increased, as if I had gotten her pregnant. I only found out after the baby was born, and my brother proposed to her while we were there. I no longer trust anyone enough to consider marriage. It would take an extraordinary woman to convince me otherwise. Story 129. I'm not property. I have never cared about getting married, but I would have if I met the right person when I was younger. At this stage, I am very glad to have escaped. I never want to be monogamous again, and there is no reason for me to marry. Story 130. Because you are not just married to the person they are now, but to the person they will be in 10 or 20 years. Life is unpredictable. In my opinion, relationships have a beginning and an end. If things turn bad, Why stay together except for the children? How can you know what your partner will be like in 50 plus years? Or if the love might leave the relationship? I can love you now, but I cannot love the negative person you might become in the future. It is good to think of a relationship as having an ending so you can live it fully in the time you have. Perhaps we are meant to find someone else when that time comes and things go wrong. Story 131. I had to mediate between my parents throughout my childhood. One was aggressive and manipulative, and the other was passive-aggressive. My biggest fear is becoming like them. Story 132. If your flight had the same percentage of success as marriages, would you still fly? If you are a man, what is the benefit? If you are a man, the court will not look out for you. Marriage is just as old-fashioned as Leave It to Beaver. Story 133. I just don't get the appeal. Costs a lot, and I don't want to be someone's wife. I'm also unsure if I want children or not. To be fair, in France, not getting married is not uncommon at all. Even in older generations, I have known several friends' parents who were not married and who have been together for decades. Story 134. Expensive, not religious, have no family, do not like generic traditions, do not want to lose half my possessions if it goes wrong. Story 135. Because if nothing binds you together, yet you both hold onto each other, that is stronger than being bound by a paper. Story 136. I don't trust myself to convince a woman so thoroughly that she won't want to divorce me for at least 10 years. Also, I don't want a baby, not because it's expensive, but because it is expensive and pointless. Babies born in this decade will soon wonder why their father didn't use condoms or their mother a morning after pill. Story 137. In my country, women do not have any benefits from marriage. In my opinion, marriage only means more housework and restrictions. Women should cooperate with their husbands, take care of the family, and support the emotional climate at home. I am from Russia. However, I am not against marrying European or American men with a different mentality. Story 138. Here is my dream to get married, but with all the disrespect I have received from women, I do not think I will ever get married, honestly. Story 139. I am asexual and sexual activity is almost always expected in relationships, so I do not date. I still want to spend my life with someone. It would be good if that person comes along. If not, I have my cats. Story 140. For Real, there is a consideration of the risks, but that's not all. I face some of the risks even without marriage. Some of it is just the life I'm choosing. I have always done poorly dating, and even though I crave intimacy, I have kind of re-geared my life for forever alone. I am going to spend my time traveling, doing fun activities, and probably aid work, which may lead to time overseas. If I had someone who would be that spontaneous with me, that would be nice. But I suspect marriage would conflict with that. Insert an analogy. Imagine if 50% of parachutes failed. Story 141. I am not speaking as if all men are bad, but the men I know around me and in my city are just incredibly disappointing. I do not know if I want to put myself through that. It makes me not want to get into a relationship in the first place and just live by myself. Story 142. I want to get married and not have children, but I feel like we live in a society that expects us to have children, especially coming from an ethnic background. Story 143. It's just not for me. I am currently living with a boyfriend, and you could consider that a marriage of sorts. By law here, it is the same whether you live with someone with the papers or not. It all has its pros and cons, and right now I don't feel like this was my best decision so far. I think I'm more of a long-term relationship but don't live together kind of person. I don't even want children, so there is not really a point in being married. I don't know. Story 144. Marriage does not change anything. It will not make the other person love you more. They will not stop cheating on you just because you are married. In fact, many abusers act perfect until they are married. After marriage, they let their mask slip and finally show you who they really are. Story 145. Would rather invest the money in something else. We do not want children. In my country, we have 95% of the same rights as a married couple, except we cannot adopt and we cannot make medical decisions on the other's behalf, which is solved with a medical power of attorney. not religious. I would not change my last name if we did marry because of too much administration. So it is pointless. We prove we love and care for each other by loving and caring for each other. Thanks a bunch for sticking around till the end of the video. Remember to subscribe, and until next time, stay awesome and goodbye.